Call to order, Violet Township Board of Trustee meeting, 7:30 p.m., Wednesday, November 17th. Ms. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mr. Dunlap.
Present.
Mr. Mulholland.
Present.
Mrs. Wild.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Stand with me if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for those who protect us at both home and abroad. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I've been presented with regular trustee meeting minutes from November 3rd, 2021. Pleasure of the board.
Move to accept without public reading as submitted by the physical office.
Second.
Ms. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mr. Dunlap.
Yes.
Mrs. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. Mulholland.
Yes.
Motion passes.
County authorities with us this evening. We have our law director from the County Prosecutor's Office, Mr. Josh Horsek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could have just a minute.
Of course.
I had a question over this past week about the public comment section, and I thought it would be useful if I could just address the answer in general. As you know, the board limits public comments to 3 minutes, which is pretty common. I represent a lot of boards and commissions, and 3 minutes is the general rule of thumb. That allows everybody who wishes to make a comment to have time to make a comment. And it also allows the board to continue on to its agenda and get the business of the evening done in a reasonable manner. And while it's a time for the public to make comment to the board, it's not really a time for question and answers. Discussion occurs at meetings such as the trustees or commissioners amongst the elected members of the board, amongst the 3 trustees. It's not really a back and forth. It's not a town hall format where it's a back and forth with the audience. So it is also a pretty standard practice to allow comments but not engage in questions and answers. If there are specific questions or specific proposals for legislation or anything like that, really the best practice is to direct that to the staff, or if a trustee is willing to meet with somebody before or after a meeting or some other time. But directing questions to the staff or to law director or whoever is appropriate allows a more complete and thorough answer to those questions that, we may not have the information immediately ready on hand during a meeting, but we can really follow up with whoever afterwards. So I just want to set that out there and make that kind of clear as to the purpose of the public comment section of the board's agenda.
Thank you. Moving right along, public comment. If you would like to make public comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Jensen. My address is 10010 Oxford Drive. I will clearly be under 3 minutes. I was going to address one item, but now I will address 2. Just for your information, not all communities limit to 3 minutes. For example, Canal allows 5 minutes. And in past practices, there has been dialogue before. So the second subject that I really came to speak about, recently Pickerington and Violet Township considered a new ice center sports complex that did not come to fruition. Instead, it was announced that the new ice center will now be built in Reynoldsburg. On March 3rd, the township authorized the payment of $25,000 for a sports complex feasibility study to be done jointly with Pickerington and the county. During the trustee comments of tonight's agenda, is it possible to provide an update? Has a feasibility study been completed? Do you know when it will be completed, and how will the results be communicated? If it's not possible to give an update tonight, could the sports complex feasibility update be done at the next trustee meeting? Sometimes these questions are best asked in a public forum and on the public record. So I thank you for your consideration of that request.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the trustees?
Good evening. Mark Evans, 91 Old North Church Road, New England Acres. I'm a resident of Etna Township. However, I am president of the New England Acres Civic Association. And as many of you might be aware, I'm a trustee-elect for Etna. So first, I'd like to say I'm looking forward to working with Violet Township for the benefit of the area. Now, I'd like to talk as the president of our Civic Association. A comment was made by the board on November 3rd's meeting regarding the referendum and our success in getting the rezoning voted down. And it was stated that because of that, there was no agreement, so there must be connections. However, this is a change from the past position of this board. January 8th, there was a letter from the entire board stating that Old Post and Cape Cod currently stop 15 feet short of the county line. If and until an agreeable solution can be reached, Violet Township has no plans to extend those roadways to the county line, nor to allow anybody else to do so. I'm concerned that there's been talk of a change in that position. Regardless of what development goes in there, there's going to be a discrepancy of the road types we don't have sidewalks still. So I would hope that the board's position would be to keep that emergency access only regardless of whatever development goes in there. I know I, as a trustee, when I take my seat, I'm going to keep that pledge for our connection to that development. It'd be totally different if we did have sidewalks, wider streets and all that, but we don't. So it is a safety issue, just as you said. And even the Fairfield County engineer in his letter on January 6th stated, I do fully support limiting connections to emergency vehicles only. So again, I'm very concerned that there's even talk of going against this now. So please keep your word. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak this evening?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sean Burke, Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, 345 Lincoln Avenue, Lancaster, Ohio. Just have some data from a speed survey that was conducted on Stone Creek. I know there was some issues that were raised in reference to that area. And at the end of this, you can have I have copies of the data. But basically from September 21st through October 12th, there was 979 vehicles monitored. There was 4 traffic stops done and 1 citation issued, and 3 written warnings issued as well. In the beginning, we had issues, but now that citizens have seen our presence out there, it appears that speeds have cut down. At this point, we're still in the area, doing what we can. So, and the average speed for that survey was 25 miles an hour. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for what you do. Have anyone else that would like to make public comment this evening? Program areas, Mike Little, Fire Chief.
Thank you and good evening. I have 3 resolutions and some general updates, so I'll go over first. As you're probably well aware, Station 592, the renovation project is pretty much done. We just have a handful of small items that we're working through with Robertson right now, and we're also working on figuring out what the final payment is and to get that done before the end of the year. The annual toy drive is getting ready to start up, and that'll run, excuse me, that'll run November 22nd through December 23rd. They have connected with Amazon, Target, and PayPal to allow for contactless donations of toys and stuff. We have QR codes for all three of those on our Facebook page and Twitter. It may even be on the Violet Township website if I remember correctly, but you scan the QR code and the person can then purchase toys and they're automatically delivered down to Station 1 downtown. So that worked out really well last year when we started it. We still have the partnership with the schools, so we'll still be working with the schools very closely as we've done over the past years to make sure those kids are well cared for also. We're working on, obviously, finalizing the budget for the fiscal office. We'll have that to the fiscal office next week, and I'm sure that you guys will have that fairly soon after that. Just an FYI that Chief Paxton will be on vacation probably most of next week. Thanksgiving being coming up. I will obviously be on vacation for Thanksgiving. I don't plan on coming in for Thanksgiving. So monthly report. So our total runs are 13% ahead of last year and 9.1% ahead of 2019. Our transports are 20% ahead of last year, but 7.7% ahead of 2019. And then our EMS receipts are 6.2% ahead of last year, but 0.8% behind 2019. So basically what that tells me is we're doing more transports, but we're getting less reimbursement on those transports, which is not surprising. And lastly, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I got a letter from Brett Barber this week. Brett Barber is the past chairman or president of Box 15. If you recall, Box 15 is the rehab unit for Central Ohio that goes to all the major incidents and provides rehab services for the departments, including us. We've been connected with Box 15 for many, many years. And Brett has always been out in front and visiting us and bringing stuff, talking to us, including us and everything. He obviously fell on some tough times the last couple of years with an illness that he had a tough time shaking. But over that 2-year period that he's been ill, he's been unable to take care of his yard. And 6 of our guys decided to go out and take care of his yard for him the 1st of November. Steve Warner, who kind of coordinated all this, but Steve owns his own lawn care landscaping company, and basically he provided all the tools. He just needed the manpower. So along with Steve, we had Josh Cook, Charlie Kilger, Brandon Osman, Dave Carter, and his wife, Corinne Carter. And the 6 of them went out there for the day, basically, and got everything squared away in his yard. And I just wanted to kind of recognize them here in front of you guys because I thought that was pretty awesome they did that. Resolutions. The first resolution is Resolution 01. And this is to approve the MEC Regional Council of Government subscription agreement for emergency medical services and for medical director oversight. This is a 2-year agreement. We've signed these in the past. We pay $25,000 a year for our EMS and medical direction oversight as being a part of the RCOG. And so this is to approve that agreement for the next 2 years.
Pleasure of the board on 01.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 02 is the annual resolution for the Volunteer Firefighter Dependent Fund. This is the state fund that the state of Ohio mandates us having, and these are the board appointments. The appointees are Mr. Dunlap, Mr. Monholland, Jason Smith, Jim Barber, and Harry Myers Jr. as the community member.
Pleasure of the board on 02.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And resolution 03 is to declare the 6 Bullard T3X thermal imaging cameras excess and for sale. As you recall, we bought new thermal imaging cameras this year from FLIR. FLIR actually gave us some trade-in value for these Bullards, but they told us to keep the cameras. So if we declare them excess and for sale, we're going to throw them up on Gov Deals and see what else we can get out of them.
Pleasure of the board on 03.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, and that's all I have tonight.
Additional questions for the fire chief, Mrs. Wild,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Dunlap?
I didn't want to say anything when we were doing the firefighters dependent fund. That's a committee and board that we hope we never have to call together,
Correct.
because that means we've lost somebody.
Right.
I have no questions, Chief. Thank you for your report. Moving right along, Ed Rabina, Township Administrator.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My report, the ODOT stimulus program, we've talked about that the last couple months. I did apply for that grant the other day, so that paperwork has been submitted. Vision for Violet, the next steering committee, which I'll mention at the next meeting, is December the 9th. Grant writing services, we talked about that a month or so ago. Township staff will be meeting with a representative from Hicks Partners tomorrow. So we'll see what opportunities are out there for the township to apply for. The dog park, we've mentioned that in the past months. The 8 trees were replaced. The water fountain was ordered and delivered. It'll be installed in the spring. And the shelter that Mr. Dunlap mentioned last meeting, the design should be done by the end of the week. The road department crews, with the snow the other day, they are preparing equipment for the winter. So, we are working on that. With the speed that the officer mentioned, we ordered temporary speed limits, our flashing signs, solar. So we did receive delivery of those, so we can move those from subdivision to subdivision. They are pole mounted. We did receive delivery of those, and we also got the new service truck that we ordered last March. The trustee meeting, December 1st, we'll have to relocate to the old trustee office, our meeting room. I do have the sound system hooked up, however, we will not be able to stream that. We do not have a camera in that room at this time.
Does that take a motion to move that?
I don't think, we're still on the property.
Okay.
And the property up the road here, I guess there's 17 acres. At one time, there was a house on it the township had torn down with moving Ohio forward money somehow. But that property has sold, and we will be receiving some money back for tearing the house down.
That's the old Wogan property.
Right. Resolutions. I have 3 resolutions. 11-1704. A resolution authorizing the township administrator to sign the employee health care insurance renewal.
Pleasure of the board on 04.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Dunlap?
Yes.
Mr. Monholland?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, resolution 05, a resolution approving the vacation of a portion of an unimproved alley platted at North Alley in Violet Township.
Pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions?
No discussion. That's part of the old Lockville platted area down south of Route 33. And, we need to address more of those in there after the first of the year, and then also look at some in Waterloo. Because if we don't, they'll create us nightmares like we've averted on a couple of occasions.
Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mr. Dunlap?
Yes.
Mrs. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Monholland?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, resolution 06, a resolution to proceed with removal of unsafe structures located at 6185 Miami Drive, Pickerington, Ohio.
Pleasure of the board on 06.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions?
I'll just remind the board that you entered into an agreement with the owner of this property to abate the unsafe property conditions over the summer. He did sign the agreement, but we have heard nothing from him since. And all indications are that the issues have not been remedied. There were specific timeframes in the agreement, and those have expired. So we're proceeding with, back where we were before, we're proceeding with the removal of the structures.
Thank you.
Just an added note, I did drive by that property this evening. and it does look about the way it did.
Thank you. Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland,
Yes.
motion passes.
That's all I have this evening.
Additional questions for the Township Administrator, Mrs. Wild,
I have none. Thank you for your report.
Mr. Dunlap?
I have none, thanks, Ed.
I have one question. You were talking about the 17 acres where we removed the house. You said that the property is sold?
That's my understanding, yes. It's
Okay.
right up the road here, right there by, across from Harmon and before you get to Taylor Road, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your report.
Mhm.
Elected officials, Vanessa Niekamp, Fiscal Officer.
Just to let you know, like Mike said earlier, I'll have some finalizing of this fiscal year and starting out of next fiscal year to bring to you to the next agenda. I also did send out requests for information to those who are currently receiving senior program grant funds, and we'll be bringing those recommendations to you as well next meeting. As soon as I receive the information back, I'll also just go ahead and share that via email so that you have it to digest before the meeting. I have a couple resolutions for you tonight. The first resolution is 11-1707, which is just the approval of some purchase orders.
Pleasure of the board on 07.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland,
Yes.
motion passes. The next thing I have for your consideration is 11-1708, and this would amend the senior program grant that was already issued to Meals on Wheels of Fairfield County. It is no new money. It is just moving money already awarded to them between line items within the grant.
Pleasure of the board on 08.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland,
Yes.
motion passes. The last thing I have for your consideration is the ratification of our bills for October of '21.
Pleasure of the board on the bills.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any questions? Mrs. Niekamp, call the roll.
Mrs. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes.
Mr. Monholland,
Yes.
motion passes. And that is all I have unless you have questions for me.
Questions for the fiscal officer, Mrs. Wild,
I have none. Thank you.
Mr. Dunlap.
Since we contribute part to the Meals on Wheels, because that's a senior service,
Mhm.
is there a way that we can perhaps get information out there? I know we have some seniors that are really, really proud, but they could use that service. So how do we, working with Meals on Wheels or the senior center or whatever, is there a way that we can communicate to those people that could be eligible for that to sign up for that without being publicly identified?
I think you have the option if you wanted to put something on your website or something like that to just provide people information about programs available in Violet Township. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I think that's something we ought to do because I'm sure that there's people out there having tough times right now, particularly on fixed incomes, and they need to know that they are they're eligible for this and they really ought to apply. So maybe we can work together with Meals on Wheels and find out if it's something that we can put on our website that would let people know about that.
I think, Ed, would you probably work with Christy just to add that to the website?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's all I had. Thank you.
I have no report. Events where there'll be more than one trustee present between now and the next meeting?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mrs. Wild, are you aware of any?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Not this month.
Thank you. The next regularly scheduled trustee meeting will be held at 7:30 PM on December 1st, 2021 at the Violet Township Administrative Offices at 10190 Black Lake Eastern Road. And as mentioned before, we'll be in the old trustees room due to an event that's taking place here in the theater. We have no old business nor tabled items?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Dunlap.
I would move that we take a 5-minute recess and then go into executive session on 2 issues. Per Ohio Revised Code 121.22G4, for the purpose of preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. And Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee.
I will second that. Cindy Camp, call the roll.
Mr. Dunlap,
Yes?
Mr. Monholland,
Yes.
Mrs. Wild.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Do we
Do you
need
want to
to?
specify for the record who you want in that executive session?
The first one would be everybody here at the table,
And Lori?
and Lori, the trustee-elect, and Assistant Chief Paxton. And on the second one, I believe we just need you, the 3 trustees, Ed, and trustee-elect Saunders.
Thank you. We are in a 5-minute recess.